This is just kind of a parallel of my life, so I just thought I'd bring it up. Obviously, it's comical. Kevin Tadych, I'm up in northern Wisconsin, way up there in the top there. My claim to fame is I'm right next to Raleigh and Helen's Muskie Shop. If you guys haven't been there, it's quintessential place to get fishing lures. I mean, you can get muskie lures. The baits are like this big. I mean, it's like crazy. I'm 59. I know I don't look it, but hey, it's all the happiness and the cheese that keeps us going. I'm orthopedic surgeon, board certified in sports medicine and general orthopedics. 26 years, and I've seen some things. So this is based on the book Who Moved the Cheese. If you haven't read this, this is a must-read. I tell you what, we all face this common, complex thing that we got to change, and it's going to happen to you whether you like it or not. So. Read this book, and I heard Ken Blanchard speak once too. If you haven't heard him speak, oh my gosh, that guy is great and just powerful. So he's part of this too. So basically, here's the book is based on this anthropomorphic mice subject, and they talk, and it's a cheese gets thinner and thinner, and they're in station C, and it's how you're going to react, and it's great because. It's the dialogue, and some are like, oh, we got to go in the maze. Oh, that's scary, right? And the other ones are like, no, more cheese is going to come. We're just going to wait. We're just going to wait. And here's what's really going on. This is Stephen Hemsley from United Healthcare, and that is Obama. And they're just kind of watching to see when you're going to say enough. So here's my story. I started out with a lot of cheese in Wisconsin. This is a little view of off my porch. My lake property here is in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of the night, you can get up and shoot coyotes in the morning with 223s, and no one complains because there's no neighbors. It's great. I just got power in this place just this year, so it is a piece of paradise. Hunting, fishing, it's me. And hey, hook 'em horns, by the way. I love the Texans, and they're leading in this charge too. Yeah. So this is kind of like Texas, but. In Wisconsin. So I had a lot of cheese. I had a lot of work instantly. I didn't even have to advertise when I started back in '92. There's no social media, no internet. That was a new thing. I mean, I don't feel like I'm that old. No web page. Solo, lots of freedom. I started out and guys still said, hey, why are you going solo? This is kind of weird yet, even in those days. But I did whatever I wanted. I'm a maverick. I should have been in Texas. Stealing horses. No committee meetings, fast decisions, no dealing with arrogant doctors and administrators. I mean, it was nirvana, right? No insurance contracts. I had high revenues, almost 75% more than what I'm getting paid today for the same procedures. I mean, this is how badly Medicare has cut us in our reimbursements. It's egregious, guys. You're worth way more than that. Andy presented about how you value. You're worth more than you're getting. And, build charges. And the only thing they did with nail on is usual and customary. That was there's the start of, hey, we're going to start to control doctors. No codes, no bullets. I mean, life was so simple. No Medicare fraud threats, no ICDs, no EMR. I've blown like 500-some thousand bucks on EMRs. What a waste of money. I wish I could get all that back. Invest that, and I could do a lot with it. No paper. It was just paper charts. It was short, simple little notes, cheap. It was awesome. I had one other solo doctor in the town. He was my best friend. He couldn't wait for me to get up in our town. That doesn't happen today. We shared calls. We assisted each other. We took care of problems. It was joyful. I had two office staff. I had a PA. Got great reimbursements, more revenues than it costs. I was getting paid full MD. He was getting paid full MD assistant fees when we do surgery, and it was a great help. Could see a lot more patients with my PA. Those days are over. So there's plenty of cheese. I respected in the hospital. We had a surgeon's room stocked with food, coffee, and water. Special parking. You can pick out any implants we wanted. Just bring it in. We didn't have to even get consents or hospital, say, oh yeah, you can do it. We start out with Makita cordless drills. I mean, I don't think I'm that old, but they work great. And there was before Stryker, and can you imagine that? And we didn't have infection rates with that. So I mean, that's how simple it was. I was bringing almost $2 million into the hospital for revenues in those days. So the cheese starts to move. My orthopedic buddy quits. I saw him leaving the hospital one day, and he was angry and tearful. And he showed me a 3x3 card, this is a real deal, that said, thank you for your 25 years of call. My heart, I was like, that was my eye-opener. I'm like, wow, all of that work and effort, and this is all you got. He never came back to the town. So the large corporate multi-specialty clinic comes in, they get 2 more orthopedic surgeons, they take all the revenue cases, they leave me with uninsured, all the undesirables, and they said, you know what, we're not going to share call. In fact, my buddy knows the guy that came in and said, yeah, we're going to rub you guys out. That was the new deal. Revenues drop, insurance ramped up, managed care, no payments unless they're authorized at 3 in the morning. I had an example of a tibia fracture. I did a tibia fracture on a snowmobiler, bilateral tibia, and a successful case. Guy was so happy. He calls me up and said, oh, you didn't get prior authorizations. I'm sorry, we're not paying you. Those are the days I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I mean, the amount of work I gave away free for a call was egregious. And this was a busy trauma area, too. We were the #1 account for Zimmer in Wisconsin at those days. I didn't want to be that. That wasn't what I went into healthcare for, but I tell you, I did a lot. I could do a tibial nail in a half an hour. Medicare cuts started to happen. The CPT codes ramped up, ICDs, EMRs. You guys know all the drill with this stuff and how much this is just killing us right now. And then I started to get I'm sorry letters from my Medicare patients. Then I knew the cheese moved. When your Medicare patient says, I'm not going to come in and see you because I'm embarrassed at the charge you're getting and I'm sorry for what you got, wake up. That's a real case. So then it gets the shrinks. The revenues keep dropping. Medicare decreased reimbursements. It's been about, I think our academy did a thing about, it's been about a 70% drop in the last 15, 20 years. There's an actual paper on it. I was starting to get $50 for doing a cervical epidural steroid injection. I was doing my own pain clinic because we didn't have any pain clinic guys. And I'm thinking, $50 to stick a spinal needle in someone's neck and run the risk of pithing them? This is nuts. And then the paperwork ramped up with that, and it was just reams of, oh, we're getting denials because you didn't put all the documentation. So it was just getting worse and worse. My PA, I had to let him go because, you know, I wasn't getting enough money to even keep his salary going. You know, we were doing rounds 3-5 days. It was the same price for a complicated patient as a simple patient. It just doesn't make sense. And I love your story of how, you know, when they're easy, you charge them less. Why not? If they're complicated, you should charge more. This is life. So they, and then there was this, you know, all the physicians are migrating to the hospitals, and you see all the PAs and nurse practitioners going there. And the reason is they get better reimbursements. They're not getting it with the private guys as much. And the EMRs, they went off the chart. So then increased paperwork, threats, $10,000 per inaccurate code. Our hospital got sued by Medicare for undercoding, and I think they paid out $30,000 for undercoding. I mean, what? Where does this happen? They're losing all this money on call. Our Academy of, not orthopedic, but the Academy of Surgeons showed that if you're on call, it's a 25% drop in revenue. Call was a loser. MDs started to turn on each other. There's no shared cases. Start threatening each other. I had a plastic surgeon in a large clinic tell me, you know, you're a dinosaur in front of everybody. By the way, he perished. The guy ended up dying in a snowmobile crash. He's gone, and I'm still here. It's sad. It really is. Threatened by the large clinic. Same one says, if you don't join me, we're going to hurt you. I'm like, oh, I want to sign up right now. I can't wait to be with you guys. But this is what happens when the cheese shrivels. Gerald Salenti, when people lose it all, they lose it mentally. You know, and we start to cannibalize each other. This is what happens when things get thin and thin. And we can't turn on each other. We need to start, you know, like what I think Abraham Lincoln said, hey, let's all hang together or we're hanging separately. And and I love this. And, you know, hats off to the primary care guys, man, who are leading the charge and taking back healthcare. It's really helping us as you know, specialists to follow your lead. So you guys are leading the charge, and I just thank you enough. So when hospitals start merging, clinics were merging, private clinics were selling out. Our academy says when orthopedic surgeons went to the hospital setting, they fall asleep. They just like, you meet all the guys that are in the hospital systems. You just like, there's no drive anymore. You're like a blue-collar worker. life is dreary. That's a sign of a failing market. You know, healthy markets are many new entities coming in. When you see mergers and acquisitions, guys, this is dying. They're getting bigger because that's the only way they can compete. And guess what? They took out the cups in our hospital and said, we can't afford the plastic cups. You got to bring your own cup in for water. Like, the cheese is gone. And then prior authorizations, and my secretaries were spending 2 hours getting surgical clearance. I'm like, we had to get prior authorizations for MRI scans, which I didn't own. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? I don't get any revenue for this. I'm doing all the work to get their prior authorizations. It just got worse. Okay, then we get the Crumbs. The local hospital was desperate to cover all them till the call mandates. They forced all us orthopedic surgeons to try to be on call through these bylaw changes. It was basically the hospital lobbying association got together and said, hey, look, we need to make this change now because surgeons are dropping out of call. And what they did, and orthopedics is a big one for your hospitals, so they really depend on us for ER coverage. And they basically said, look, we can't expect you to be on staff at our hospital. You have to be on staff somewhere full-time. With that, they were able to keep the system going and try to trap doctors to do call. Guess what? It's not our obligation to do call, guys. I think there's a moral thing we have to do a call, and we have to cover our patients. It's a hospital deal. And guess what? The 13th Amendment, and I want Andy to look at this too. Hey, it wasn't about color. It's neither slavery nor involuntary servitude. No one in this country is to be an involuntary servitude. So this is a violation of the 13th Amendment indirectly. So unable to recruit ortho, 18 years at this hospital. You think they're going to get any more ever since then? We went 2 when I started, went up to 8, now we're down to 1.5. And physicians are leaving in droves. I mean, our small town is really hurting. And the same thing would be in primary care. People are just dropping off. So we were forced to, then I had our surgery center, and I'm going to get to this a little bit. They realized through Medicare they could force us to be on call at this hospital because they went through a Medicare rule that says you have to have a transfer agreement and it has to be with a local hospital. We had a transfer agreement with our hospital that we formed our surgery center with, which is a tertiary center. And for 10,000 cases, I think we had 1 transfer that was a nonsense transfer. But they realized they could force us to be on their hospital because they were a little closer than the other hospital. With that, they forced us to be on call. Immediately they said, give us a full call list. I want your full call list, and all the days, every 3rd day, you got to be on call. They didn't even take them sent. They actually sent in the health department to review us and this and that. We had a transfer agreement. I can get into that. I don't want to get into all the details of it, but it was their way of forcing us out, and our center took a major hit. So not only the smell was cheese remains when Obamacare comes in, governments need to control everything. And Obama said, you know, it's easy for us. That was his thing. And I want to give this ENT example. A good friend of mine, he was working with me, and he said, he was all down. I said, what's going on? He said, you know, and Obama said that he made ENT the spectacle of why government needs to take over health care, that all you want to do is yank out tonsils. He said, I got $80 for doing a kid's tonsil, and he said, the kid is the most awful kid. He said, I couldn't stand him. He said, he's just ungrateful, and he said, I just wanted to leave healthcare. But at the same time, the nurse practitioner got $250 for working him up. This is the system. He quit. He's gone. It's causing burnout, EMR, zero hedge. Yeah, these EMRs are killing us. Collapse of complexity, Josh nailed it. EMRs, these are complex. The cost to maintain, and I'm going to show a book on Joseph Tainter. What happens in complexity is the cost to maintain it is higher than you get out of it. It fails. But we're there. Great book, must read. And keep it simple. Land of Cheese, Vince Lombardi said, keep it simple. He said, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's not well thought out. It takes more energy to make it simple than it does keep it complex. So re-enter the maze. You know, in the maze, it's scary. There's no cheese. You're going to take a financial hit. Read the book, Failing Forward. As physicians, we hate failure. I think we've always succeeded. And Failing Forward is such a good book because you need to hate it, but you don't have to fear it. And you got to go through the valley, you got to go through the swamp before you get to the mountaintop. Average successful businessman, 4 failures. I don't know what it is about us, we don't want to fail. In the maze, you start talking to others. Go to the APS, this is where I started to learn. Rasmussen, experience as a teacher of fool. Don't experience it. You don't want to live the experience, you want to learn from others. Don't learn the hard way. So in the maze, I decided to change staff, went to a hospital 30 miles away, 4 other orthopedic surgeons. They didn't want me there. They were fearful I was going to take business. But it was call every 5th, made my lifestyle a lot better as a solo doc. Tried to maintain a courtesy staff in the former hospital, and they said, you can be on your credential and we'll give you 25 cases, but if you need to be on call full time to be courtesy staff. I would eat that up in literally 2 weeks. I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense, so it wasn't even worth fighting. I just dropped my staff privileges at that hospital. It was right near my town. I lost a fair amount of business from that too, but it just wasn't worth the cost. So then, this call thing too, again, remember, it's really a hospital thing, and I don't think it's even against the Hippocratic Oath to say, well, I'm not on call. Morally, again, provide for your patients and be reasonable about it. In my business where I'm solo, you just don't do complicated cases before you leave. You plan ahead. Okay, I'm going to do a total knee. I'm not going to do it the week I'm going out. As a solo doctor, you do it a couple weeks before. You do the simple stuff that you can handle, and you're not going to get those kind of calls like your patient's bleeding to death, take a flight back. So after 8 years, I had several $1 million in that hospital, again, in revenues. And when I decided to leave and start our surgery center, get this, no administrator came up to me to even want to try to keep my business. What organizations function like that when you're a several $1 million provider for them and they don't even care if you're leaving? I mean, this is how it goes. The other ortho group was angry I came, and then they're angry I left because they had to go back to doing more call. So in the maze, remember the laws of economics. You have to make more than you consume. It is not immoral to make a profit. If you don't make more than you consume, you can't provide for anybody. When we were farmers, it was really easy. If you didn't make more food than your family consumed, you died. And if you brought an extra hand on, he had to produce more food than he consumed, or he wasn't worth hiring. You don't hire, and this goes, with Walmart. It doesn't matter if you got 15 kids or not. It's how much you're producing for Walmart. We got it in those days. Inspirational podcasts. I just bought a farm, so I'm kind of into farming now too. This guy, he was a Wall Street guy and got sick of the runaround, so he decided to go into farming. He and his wife were just talking about where his food come from. So he was a successful financial guy. He goes into farming, instantly starts making money. And he started realizing all the farmers around him were broke. And he's like, what's going on? You know what? They didn't know business. And I thought to myself, this is healthcare. If we don't know business, and he says if success is 80% business, 20% productivity. If you're going to just focus on healthcare and try to go solo and neglect business, you are not going to succeed. Business has got to be something you have to focus on. You have to find your buyers. You have to know how to reach them. You have to know how to do business. We never taught it in healthcare, and it's a shame if you don't know it. I mean, Josh and the guys, you guys start out doing business right away. And it's impressive. They realize how to do business. They're the Costco of healthcare. I love it. So I could start smelling cheese. We got approached to start the new our surgery center. It was freedom. I was getting away from hospital. Could control turnovers. No more wasted time. My own boss. Satisfaction rates were up to 95%. Hospitals are only 70%. That's a Becker review. And no more free call. I was like, this is my way out. So we started Northwood Surgery Center, 3 docs, and we were doing 10,000 cases in 10 years. Highly successful. Revenues doubled. It was the best place I've ever operated. More fun there than I've ever had in my entire career. And we started our joint program in 2008 doing outpatient joints. It was better, faster, cheaper. Patients were satisfied. Hey, this was free market. This is what it can do. I had patients total knees in the hospital and total knees in our center. All of them were more happy with our outpatient program. And even our own academy now is saying elective joints should be done outpatient. So we were way ahead of the curve. There's our center. It was free market driven. And then we did a white paper on our total joint program. I don't even use therapy. I don't even use post-op CPMs. I got people walking in a week. Very happy, much lower cost, lower infections. It's a great system. Our center was 60% less cost than hospitals. Insurance were actually starting to call us because we were so economical. Patients love the reduced costs, no hospital infections less. You know, hospitals are dangerous places. We have to be careful about that. Infection rates are high. Then the cheese moves again. 08 happens. We got 5.5% tax off the top that went to the other hospitals from our center. We were paying out a couple $100,000 just in tax, and it went to 2 hospitals in our state. The local hospital joined Ascension, which is, if you guys know, Ascension is a massive institution. The CEO gets paid $7 to $10 million a year. Hospital administrators are making more than surgeons. They don't do call, no weekends, they're done by 3. This is a sign of a sick market. Pathology of Privilege. This is a great, another must read. You know, there's no greater example than health insurance. The privilege that Obamacare gave these guys allowed them to double their bonuses every year. Stephen Hemsley took home $64 million in 2014. Guys, I was struggling in 2014. He was making $250,000 a day. The guy would get more getting a cup of coffee than 90% of Americans making a whole year's work. That is sick. But that's Pathology of Privilege. And you can read the book, it's excellent. I'm not going to go over that. So, and here's what privilege does. This is cancer in our system. This is the growth of administrators. The little red line on the bottoms are physicians. The rest is administrators. What do you do when we get cancer? We need to cut this out. This is why the system's gone berserk. Healthcare is not, the cost isn't physicians, the cost is this, administrators and insurance. And I think physicians represent only a small percentage of the total cost of healthcare. So the cheese moved again. They came in and audited it, and then they threatened us with this certificate. Half our surgeons left, the revenue shriveled, constant negotiations with the local hospital. Our patient care diminished. We had total ankle specialists at our center. We had all sorts of pain specialists. I mean, this thing was giving really good health care for reasonable prices. But because they pulled this Medicare certificate on us, by the way, Jeremy said that might be in reversed, which is really good news. Thank you for the current administration and the work. But this Medicare rule was destroying surgery centers. And ours took a big hit. So back in the maze, APS, I found them. I was like, whoa, what a great source of help. You know, you need others' wisdom. They motivated me. I dropped Medicare, January 1. It's a great Freedom Day. Not missing it. Met Keith Smith. Went out and talked to Keith. Boy, what a maverick he is, and his partner. And you know, you want to talk to fellow maze runners. Keith told me, hey, best thing you do is just say no. One of the most inspirational talks was Jane's talk that said, just do it. This was also inspirational. He said, just say no. You got the power. When you say no, he said, it made all the world of difference. So I started in-office surgery. Paul Gorman, thank you, man. He taught me this one. I started doing surgeries in my office. I was like, hey, this will work. This was an APS meeting I went to. And I started to learn how to do business. You know, we had to figure our surgery center from the bottom up. You know, business calculates costs, and then they figure out what you need to get on top. It's the real way things should be done. You know, it's when you don't do that, you get MRI scans that are off the chart and pricings that, you know, it costs a hospital about $100 for an MRI scan, and they're charging, what, $5,000 at our center for MRIs. $4 Tylenols. It's just, again, it's about ROI in the end. You have to make more than you consume. And I said, okay, I'm going to find some buyers. Little did I know, I'm like next to the biggest Amish and Mennonite community next to Pennsylvania. And I was like, man, these guys are cash buyers. So the best story is Roman. So I started, I go for these cash miles. We started giving cash bundle prices at our center for outpatient joints. And guy calls up, he has to use his neighbor's phone. And he says, yeah, I need a rotator cuff repair. By the way, the Amish are very smart. They know what they need before they come to see you, and they know prices. So if you take care of them, be prepared. And so he calls me up, and I'm like, okay, can you do it the same day? Because I got to pay someone to bring me up. I'm like, sure. Let's look at your records. Everything was clear. Gave him all the preoperative stuff. A couple days before, he says, you know, my shoulder's better. I want my knee replaced. Like, man, this is an out-of-body experience. And I'm like, well, let me see your knee x-rays. You got them? Yeah, he sends them up. And I'm like, yeah, he's got bone on bone. He really needs a knee replacement. I said, well, come on up. We'll talk. We come up there, and, you know, he's got the garb on. I mean, this is really, really fun at the same time. It's so new. And we're talking about a knee. I said, yeah, I can do your knee. I think you're a good candidate. He says, how much is it going to cost? And I'm like, okay, here goes. I said, I'll give you our bundle. We had an Amish bundle that we set out. I said, $1,350. He's like, whoa, I can get in Indiana down here somewhere for 10. And I'm like, ramen. 10? I said, that includes anesthesia and the implants and all that? And he kind of stammers a little bit, and he looks at Susie, his wife, and I could tell he didn't know what he was talking about. I said, let me go talk to my manager. I'm just like a car salesman now. This is hilarious. I go to my manager, my office girl, and I said, it's really $1,350, right? And she's like, yeah. He said, this guy's working me. I said, I gotta go back. So I go back to Roman. I said, hey, Roman, it's $1,350, but if you wait till summer, I can give you a discount. I got a sale on implants. And he's like, let's just do it. I did his knee replacement the same day I met him. I mean, that's the way healthcare should be. The guy went home same day. I don't know, he went back to the farm, which makes me nervous, because, you know, they're dirty places, and calls me up a couple of weeks later. I said, how's it going, Roman? He says, it's a little sore, Doc. And I said, well, what are you doing? He said, I'm cutting grass. I said, well, you don't have a lawnmower. He said, no, I'm on my horse. I'm like, oh, okay, Roman. I said, get off the horse, you got to rest a little bit and give us some time, and the guy's really happy, he's doing great. But isn't that the way healthcare should be? You see him the same day and you do the surgery. I didn't need that. If I had insurance, forget it. So anyway, I wish Marius was here, but Marius is nailing this. He started one-man surgery centers in Anchorage, Alaska, and this guy I went and visited him. He realized that surgery centers are not that expensive. You can build these units for approximately $1 million. Now, this sounds like a lot, but, you know, a surgeon, you can generate $200-300 in revenue pretty easily. That's like 20-25% ROI. Dude, you don't get that in business. 10-12% is good. Let's start thinking like business people here. I think the day's here where we can actually do this, and he's not taking any insurances, no Medicare. Here's my tale of two patients, thanks to Paul. So this is great. So I have carpal tunnel surgeries. Am I running out of time here? I know I'm talking too much. So I thought, I'm going to do in-office carpal tunnels. Paul inspired me on this. So I had a guy came in, and he's like, look, Doc, I don't have any time. I got a job. I got to work. Can you do my surgery same day? And I said, yeah. I said, let me add up my costs. So I figured I got $25 in variables, and I got about $200 just to cover my room charges. Let me add a couple hundred. You know, $600 would be pretty profitable. I only make like $300 from Medicare on a carpal tunnel. So I said, $1,200 and I'll do it for you. He's like, okay, I'm coming in. I did his carpal tunnel same day. Guy went back to work in a week, outpatient. He couldn't believe. He's like, well, where's the catch? There's more money in this. No, it's just $1,200. He didn't realize I'm making 4 times what I get from Medicare doing that. And very happy. He could feel his hat before he left. Before he came in, he says, I cannot feel the trigger on my gun. He says, I just pull it until I hear a bang. I'm like, you're a little late. We should get this a little earlier. But he could feel his hat as he was leaving. That's how instant the success was. Contrast to my next patient who saw this same week, Blue Cross Blue Shield, a guy I know, I did carpal tunnel on him a couple of years ago, and his other side needed it, and he was very RSD prone. And so I said, let's do it this week. You need this done sooner than later. Okay, we get prior authorization. Nope, you didn't have EMG. You didn't have therapy. You didn't have this and this. I mean, it was August from April before I got to his surgery, and hundreds of dollars, I mean thousands more, to do his surgery. And guess what? He gets RSD. He didn't get back to work all the way till January. That's the problem. So I started some other businesses. You know, I need more time. I wish I had 1,000 years to live. I'm running out of time here, but I'm started another business called Transform Therapeutics. I'm into the biocellular thing. You know what? As an orthopedic surgeon, this is a really good adjunct for orthopedics. Tendons heal very well with this, you know, using PRP, and I'm doing combinations PRP and Highland. And, you know, I was thinking this was all snake oil, but I tell you what, I'm seeing my patients get better with this stuff. And it's a direct pay system. I even got a good friend of mine to come out of retirement, and he and I are both doing this. And I tell you what, this has been a lot of fun at the same time. It's seeing people get better. So this is called Transform Therapeutics. We enrolled as clinical investigators in patient-funded research. This goes against the big university guys. They don't like, ooh, patient-funded, it should be free. No, it's not free. Patients love it when they get better. And we're enrolling people in the IRB studies, and it's actually been a blast seeing people get better without major tissue-altering surgeries. So, hey, you know, what really matters in the end? What's really the key to happiness? I love this book, Arthur Brooks, Road to Freedom. Is basically, he says, taking your ideas and seeing them come to fruition. If you're not able to upload your stuff in general, I don't think you're going to be a really happy person. He coined the term learned helplessness too, which I love. He said, when you get paid free stuff, it kills your soul. It's destroying us. He says it makes you learn helpless. You become brain dead, and then you become physically dead. So hey, get your running shoes on. My last thing, most of what I told you is true.